Scandalous. And I'm usually one to use tempered language. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I go in front of the courts. You never talk like this. You kind of hold yourself back. But when we're talking about this, you can't hold back. You have to say it for what it is. The truth is, this is a terrible, terrible act. All these people in Washington need to go. And not just the people in Washington, but your town governments and your state governments who don't stand up in opposition to this, they need to go too. They've taken the oath. They've taken the oath as well. And the oath wasn't just to deny your fundamental rights as it relates to zoning or your right to build a building. You know, your town governments have the responsibility upon taking that oath to protect your most fundamental rights. So we're going to get to the solution, because that's where these town guys and state guys come in, and ladies, pardon me. Okay. So the president has monarchical power as it relates to the NDAA. Certainly our founders never intended this. I mean, just read the Constitution, read everything they've said, read the history. It was never intended. So what do we do about it? And we obviously work all angles. You try and elect people to Congress who understand the Constitution. But look, you know, we had all these Tea Party guys, right? We had Alan West, the Tea Party freedom guy. He voted for the NDAA. You know, he voted for the NDAA. Yeah, and then I saw him at CPAC denying that it applied to U.S. citizens. I know. Read it, buddy. Read it. Read the bill you signed. So, I mean, there are imposters out there who hijack liberty movements. There are. I mean, it makes sense. You know, if you don't want the power taken from you, get involved in your opposition. It just makes sense. So Alan West, Tea Party imposter, phony conservative. Okay, so can we rely on Congress? No, they passed it. Can we rely on the judiciary? No, they've done everything they can to avoid questions of executive power during the War on Terror. I refer specifically to the Jose Padilla case. Jose Padilla was the alleged dirty bomber, U.S. citizen, arrested within the United States, detained by the Bush administration for 3.5 years. On the eve of his Supreme Court review of the question as to whether the president could designate him as an enemy combatant subject to indefinite detention, the Bush administration transferred him to civilian jurisdiction, literally the week before. And the Supreme Court said, oh, it's now moot. We don't have to answer this question anymore. How convenient. We don't have to answer this question anymore. And so the question remains, can the administration designate United States citizens and all other people within the United States as enemy combatants? The Supreme Court did not rule on that. And here we are. We're stuck in this gray area the NDAA seeks to exploit. We sure can't rely on the executive branch. Can we? Please don't do it. No. So what do? We nullify this on the state and local level. And this is what we've done. Myself and the 10th Amendment Center, we've drafted what's called the Liberty Preservation Act. It's a 3-step act that can be introduced to any state legislature, any town government, any county government in the country. The first step is simply a resolution saying, we don't agree with this. And, you know, due to the political considerations, you might only be able to get a resolution passed. But that has incredible power to wake people up. People will finally say, what is this NDAA? So the resolution portion's good, and it's pending in several places. The Liberty Preservation Act, you can download it from the 10th Amendment Center website. Second part of the Liberty Preservation Act, it's a directive to all state and local officials to not cooperate with the federal government investigating or detaining someone pursuant to Section 1021 of the NDAA. That's great. That's a non-compliance provision. Can't use jails, almost like the Fugitive Slave Acts, what the personal liberty laws in the North did to the Fugitive Slave Acts. And the third portion of our act attempts to render it illegal for the federal government to come in and investigate or detain pursuant to the NDAA. So we published this, I think, about 2.5 months ago. Our legislation, or similar versions, are currently in 11 state houses in this country. Yeah. Virginia, any of you guys from Virginia, call your governor. The legislature has passed up to step 2, non-compliance. We're waiting on the governor's signature. We don't know what he's going to do. Utah has passed a resolution, and Maine's passed a resolution calling on Congress to clarify the NDAA. If you live in Washington, Arizona, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Missouri, Maryland, or West Virginia, call your representatives. Tell them to support this bill. You can go on the 10th Amendment Center website. They have great interactive maps which show where there's pending resolutions in the state houses. And you can click on the links. It says who the bill sponsors are, where the bill is in the process. You can read the bill. But we're not just stopping at state legislatures. This bill can be passed by any town, county, city government. So it's already been passed by, I think, what's the number now? 12, 15 different municipalities and cities, anywhere from step 1 to 3. Cherokee County, Kansas, passed a bill making it illegal for the federal government to come in and invest in, yeah. God bless them. And Tennessee, as Michael Bolton said, has a pending bill which would designate it as kidnapping and render it illegal for the federal government to take those acts. So there's a lot going on. In this nullification movement, it's united people across the political spectrum. We're hooked up with progressive groups pushing this. Yeah, Committee for the Defense of Bill of Rights and Demand Progress, these two lefty groups we've hooked up with, and we're just pushing this as hard as we can. And it's working, and it's spreading, and people are waking up. And I truly hope this is a colossal misstep by the federal government, that finally people are going to say, well, they don't care about our rights. And maybe they're going to start looking at all the other things the federal government has done to take away our most fundamental rights. Maybe they're going to start seeing that the federal government does all these things it has absolutely no authority under the Constitution to do. And it's gotten us into this mess we're in today. So that's my sincere hope. We want to throw indefinite detention to the dustbin of history. We don't want it. It doesn't have any place in the American tradition. And these guys at the 10th Amendment Center, they have the answer. This is the answer. Think about it. Once a few states pass this, think of the ripple effect it's going to have. Once a few states nullify any unconstitutional federal bills, think of the ripple effect. I mean, Congress is going to start saying, well, maybe we need to be a little careful. They're going to call our bluffs. You know, they're going to realize we don't have this authority. So what can you do? You go to the 10th Amendment Center website, you download the bill, walk it down to your town hall. Say, put me on the agenda. We want you guys to consider this. Grab your state legislator. Introduce this bill. And if people say no, you campaign against them every single possible way you can.
Primary against them, too.
Yeah, everything. Everything, not just the men and women in Congress who voted for this. I mean, they have to go. I mean, it's over for them, I think. You know, it's like there's no saving them. You know, but your local officials who don't stand up against this, I mean, they've abrogated their responsibility, in my opinion. So in closing, I just want to say that, you know, of course 9/11 was terrible. Of course the threat of terrorism is real. But if we give up our most fundamental rights, I mean, we concede to the terrorist desire to change the fabric of what made this country a beacon of freedom and liberty for years, for generations. You know, the Constitution wasn't written for when times are easy. Just like the First Amendment isn't intended to protect popular speech. You know, the Constitution is written when times are hard, and and we have the desire, out of fear, to abandon our most fundamental rights. It's there. We have to pick it up and read it. It has the answers. So that's what I have to say. Let's talk. Anybody have questions, comments?
What's the definition of belligerent act?
It's not it's not defined. It's not defined. But the substantial support for Al-Qaeda, Taliban, or associated forces, that's broad, and it says including those who commit belligerent acts. So that substantial support is the broad umbrella under which belligerent acts comes. There's no definition for it. And in most bills that I've seen, they put a definition in. Yes, sir.
You mentioned about municipalities enacting legislation to block the federal government from executing on this. What happens with an obstruction of justice charge by the federal government against like some small municipality? Does it just really come down, all of it really comes down to, it seems like, force eventually, right?
I think you look at this. when that happens. I think if the federal government comes in and says we're going to deny your citizens the most fundamental rights in the Constitution and deny them their fundamental liberties, and you can't do anything about it, if they use the Constitution's supremacy clause to eviscerate the very rights in the Constitution we're guaranteed, that's what they're doing. I think at that point, I think the Grand Agreement has serious problems. And I think people need to look to the Declaration of Independence. Yes, sir.
The original NDAA, that came out during the Bush administration, during the war or something, and how did they add it again, or revote it again, or alter again, and add it to the spending bill?
Yeah, okay, so okay, so the NDAA comes up every year. It's an annual appropriations bill. And so this year they slipped it in there. And this Section 1021 is not time barred. It's not, only for this year. It's forward-looking until it's repealed by a subsequent bill, specifically repealed. Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the FEMA camps that are being developed?
I've read about them.
Do you know if anybody is interred in them now?
I don't know if anyone is interned in them now.
I have two brothers that live in Florida, and the word down there, and of course it's just rumor, but there are about 100 people retained in one of the Florida FEMA camps.
That's scary. I hope they've been given their due process rights.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this going on in Pennsylvania now, or do we need to start this?
Just take my little list. I know it's not there. It's not there. Good for Elk County. That's great. That's great. So it may be going on in individual counties and municipalities. I don't have my head wrapped around how many because it's constantly in flux. But the states, it's not one of the states. You should get on that. Yes, ma'am.
What about New York, the least free state in the union?
No, but I know certain counties in New York are considering resolutions. I know a county in upstate New York passed a resolution. Albany County. Albany County passed a resolution. There's a question back there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know the Oath Keepers are also developing resolutions. Are you partnering with them? Do they have the same ones that you guys have? Or can you compare and contrast what Oath Keepers is doing versus the 10th Amendment?
Yeah, the resolutions are a little different. They're a little different. We have worked together. We obviously support anyone who opposes this. I think Mike might be able to speak better to that than I. He kind of deals with Oath Keepers directly, but I know they're pushing resolutions, and we support that 100%.
We love the Oath Keepers.
Yeah, they're great guys. And I'm a lawyer. I took the oath. I would, if any Oath Keepers are here, please pass it up the chain to let lawyers join. Thank you. So we took an oath also.
Like telling people he's a lawyer, though.
Yes, sir.
The area that where Oath Keepers combined with Patriot Coalition is put out there in a really nice place. There's NDAA presentations also, and the resolutions. I was happy to welcome to my township people. That's great. And that's called intolerableacts.org.
I've seen that. And it's great also what they do. You can click on your county and it fills everything out for you. It really takes no work.
PowerPoint presentations are out there and everything.
Yeah, I mean, they're great. Stuart Rhodes is a wonderful guy. So God bless the Oath Keepers.
Supervisor waiting for the next meeting to see what the people
In your town?
in our township.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Congratulations. Okay, one more question. We got to wrap it up. One more. Someone's had their hand back up there for a really long time. Yes. It really varies. I mean, I got a resolution passed at my hometown, and I just sent it to the first warden and said, put it on the agenda, please. And they passed it. They were the 5th in the country. So you call up every one of these legislative bodies has staff attorneys. Don't bother calling the politicians. Call like their staff attorney and say like, hey, what do we have to do? And that's your best route. So thank you, everybody. Please stand up to the NDAA. Thank you. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, dude, let's give him.
Thank you.